Hey guys, it's me. So we're going to be talking about a new topic, a new lesson, and that is a volume. So I would encourage you in your notebooks to take your next sheet of paper that you have in it and go ahead and label it volume. Now you don't have to draw these three shapes, but I do want you to notice that these are the three shapes that we're going to be focusing in on: cylinder, cone, and sphere. So in this video, we are specifically going to be taking a look at the cylinder and talking about its characteristics and how to find the volume. So how to find the inside of the shape. Okay, so go ahead and grab your notes and let's take a look. So first and foremost, you need to understand that volume is the amount that fills inside of the shape. All right, it is that how much a liquid goes into a swimming pool. It's how much soup is in the can, all of those different things. All right, now there's what we call the generic formula for volume. All right, this formula works for any shape that we have. All right, so what this formula says is volume equals the area of the base times the height. Okay, so we're going to take the area of the base, whether it's a triangle, a circle, a trapezoid, and then we're multiplying it by the height, the amount of them that's stacked on top of each other. Okay, so our focus today is on volume of a cylinder. All right, so we need to understand what a cylinder actually is to start. All right, a cylinder has bases that are circles, and they are joined then by a rectangle, because if you think about it, if you were to curl a piece of paper, which is a rectangle, and you were to tape it together, you would in fact be making a cylinder. Okay, so that's why when they say that rectangle part, that's what they're talking about. All right. If you're working on drawing a cylinder, what you can do is you're going to draw an oval. You're going to draw two lines traveling down, and then you're going to draw half of an oval in a solid line, and you're going to draw a dotted line as the back half. Okay, so those of you working on that. All right, so we need to focus in on the formula for this, because that's the beauty of geometry is there's a formula. Once I know the details, I plug it in. All right, so we need to understand that I'm dealing with a circle to start. So because my base is a circle, I'm going to start with pi radius squared. So I'm finding the area of the circle. From here then, I am multiplying it by the height because I have a bunch of circles stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to multiply this circle by height. And that would then give me the volume. So volume equals pi radius squared times height. Right? When you do this, your calculator will be able to do it all, but I would always recommend doing the radius squared first, then multiply it by the height, then do your 3.14. So just because it's in this certain order doesn't mean you have to do it in that order. It's just meaning they're all multiplied together. All right, and to do a quick review, we need to understand our rounding rules before we get started. Okay, rounding is the place value that we have to go to. So if it asks for the tenths place, it wants one digit behind the decimal. If it wants the hundredths place, it wants two numbers behind the decimal. And if it wants thousandths, it wants three numbers behind the decimal. All right, so in this part, they're going to specifically be telling us what we are going to be doing. Okay. All right, so let's actually do the math. All right. So example 1, they're telling me my explicit directions. I'm going to use 3.14 for pi, and they're going to round to the tenths place. Round to the tenths place. Okay, now sometimes our problems are not in picture form. They give it to us in algebraic form, so they tell me what the letters mean. Here they tell me that my radius is 5 centimeters, and they tell me that my height is 8.3 centimeters. Now, if you want to draw that, you can, but we don't have to. So we're going to start with our formula, and we're going to put V equals pi radius squared h. Please make sure you're putting the V, because there are going to be some equations that we're going to be working on later on where they'll tell me the volume. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and fill in what we need to know. So volume equals pi. Radius, they said, was 5, so I'm going to put 5 squared. And height, they told me, is 8.3. Okay, Now I'm going to wait to do pi. I know they say to use 3.14, but I want to show you something in this first problem. So I have my handy dandy calculator ready. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type in 5 squared. Now remember, we have our x with our little 2 times 8.3 equals. So right now I have volume equals pi, and then I have 207.5. Now really the pi symbol would be after it, but I want to show you this is the most perfect answer that you could give with in terms of pi, just like when we are working on areas of circles. Okay, in this problem they tell me to use 3.14, but 207.5 pi is mathematically the correct answer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 3.14, and I'm going to write down that the volume equals 651.55. Now I go back to my directions and it says round to the tenths place. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to underline my tenths place. So it's 1 digit behind the decimal. I'm going to look at its next door neighbor behind him. So the question is this closer to being 50 cents or being 60 cents? And that 5 tells this other 5 to bump up. So 5 and higher, add 1 more. So my volume is going to be approximately, so we get our wavy lines approximately, 651.6 centimeters cubed. Okay. So I knew centimeters because I'm stealing the label of my example, and cubed because it's volume, it's 3-dimensional. All right, so let's do another one just to make sure we are okay with what we're doing. All right, so this one has an actual picture tied to it. All right, so we have our line going all the way through. That line is 16 inches. We have a line with the 20 inches. So first thing is we got to figure out, okay, what do these numbers even mean? All right, so this 16, the first question is that diameter or is that radius? That would be the diameter because it's drawn all the way across, which means we have to find the radius. And so remember, to find the radius, we have to divide by 2. So what would the radius be in this question? Good, the radius would have to be 8 inches because it's divided by 2. And then we need our height, which is in fact 20 inches. So remember, height is the distance between the two circles. So now we're going to fill in our formula. Volume equals pi radius squared times height. Volume equals 3.14 times 8 squared times 20. So all again I did is I took out the pi and I put in 3.14. I took out the r and I put in 8, and I took out the h. Now notice again the squared goes to the 8. I'm now going to pick up my handy dandy calculator. 3.14 times 8 squared. So again, squared button is located right next to your 7 times 20. So we're going to get that the volume equals 401, I can write 9.2. That is already 1 decimal behind it. No rounding needed. All right, so it's your turn. All right, we've got 2 problems for you. I did not draw them. I only have them written out for you. So this first one, radius of 1.5 centimeters, a height of 8 centimeters. We have a diameter of 8 inches and a height of 8 inches. And I want you to find the volume. Again, we're going to use 3.14, and we are going to round to the tenths place. So go ahead and give them a try. Let's see what you get. All right, let's check our work. All right, so we should have had volume equals pi radius squared times height. So 3.14 times 1.5 squared times 8. Handy dandy calculator. All right, so 3.14 times 1.5 squared times 8 should have gotten us 56.52. Tenths place is where that 5 is. So we look, so we get approximately 56.5 because that 2 says stay where you are. 4 and below, stay where you are. All right, let's take a look at this other problem. All right, so we need to find the radius. The radius would have been 4. So we've got volume equals pi radius squared times height. Volume equals 3.14 times 4 squared times h. So let's do the math. 3.14 times 4 squared times 8 equals, volume equals 401.92. Again, 9 is in the tens place. The 2 tells him to stay exactly where he is. All right, so hopefully this gave you some insight of how to fill in this formula, and you keep working hard.